Hello everyone, and welcome to Learn Conversational English. I'm Jenny, and I'm here with my co-host, John. This podcast is for English language learners who want to hear natural everyday conversations that will help improve your listening skills and expand your vocabulary.
Hey there, I'm John, and we're so glad you're joining us today. We always try to speak naturally while keeping our language accessible for learners.
Today, we're talking about something really fascinating: finding love as an immigrant in a new country. Specifically, we want to explore those amazing stories of people who meet their future partners within just weeks of arriving somewhere new.
Yeah, it's incredible how often this happens. You hear about it all the time. Someone moves to a new country, maybe they're taking language classes or visiting a welcome center, and boom.
They meet someone special, and it got us thinking, is there something about being new and vulnerable in a place that actually opens your heart faster?
That's such a good question. I think when you're in a completely unfamiliar environment, your usual defenses are kind of down. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. When I first moved here, I remember feeling so exposed. Like back home in Singapore, I had my routines, my friend groups, my comfort zones.
Right.
But suddenly I was in this new place, and I had to be open to everything. New ways of doing things, new people, new experiences. And maybe that openness extends to love too.
That makes so much sense. It's like when you're comfortable and settled, you might be pickier or more cautious. But when you're already taking this huge leap of faith by moving somewhere new,
You're already being brave.
exactly. You're already being brave, so maybe your heart is just more ready for another adventure. And I think there's also this shared experience thing happening.
Oh, what do you mean?
Well, think about it. When you meet someone in a language class or at a newcomer event, you're both going through similar challenges. You understand each other's confusion about how things work here.
Oh yeah, that's true. Like in Canada, I remember being so confused about tipping culture.
Yeah, that's a classic one. Even as someone who grew up here, I know it can be really confusing for newcomers.
And when you meet someone who's also figuring out these little cultural mysteries, there's this instant understanding. You can laugh about it together instead of feeling embarrassed.
That's beautiful. It's like you're creating your own little community of understanding. And I've heard so many stories like this. My friend Maria from Mexico met her husband literally on her second day here.
No way, second day?
Second day, she was at the bank trying to open an account, completely overwhelmed by all the paperwork. And this guy ahead of her in line heard her struggling and offered to help translate some of the banking terms.
Oh, that's so sweet.
They ended up spending 3 hours together just figuring out basic stuff. Bank accounts, getting a phone plan, finding a grocery store. And she said later that she felt like he was her first lifeline in this new place.
That's exactly what I mean about love being a form of belonging. When you're new somewhere, a person who makes you feel safe and understood, that's not just romantic connection. That's like finding home.
Wow, that's profound. So love becomes part of how you land in a new place.
Yes. And I think that's why these connections can feel so intense so quickly. It's not just about attraction, though that's important too. It's about survival, in a way. Not physical survival, but emotional survival.
That makes perfect sense. When you're feeling lost or disconnected from everything familiar, finding someone who gets you must feel like, I don't know, like finding water in the desert.
That's such a good metaphor. And I think there's something about the shared vulnerability too. Like you're both admitting you don't know everything, you need help, you're learning. That's not always easy for people to admit when they're in their comfort zone. But when you're new somewhere, vulnerability is it's just part of the daily reality.
And there's something really attractive about people who can be vulnerable and still keep going. Like it takes courage to start over somewhere new. That's an appealing quality in a person.
Oh, I never thought about it that way. So maybe immigrants are actually more attractive as partners because they've already demonstrated they're brave and adaptable?
Could be. And also, I think when you're new somewhere, you're more present. You have to pay attention to everything because it's all unfamiliar.
True.
That kind of presence and attention can make interactions feel really meaningful, even simple ones. Like, you're not just going through the motions of daily life, you're actually experiencing it.
And when you meet someone during that heightened state of awareness, they become part of all those new discoveries. Like, they're connected to your fresh perspective on the world.
Exactly. I'm curious though, do you think this applies to both immigrants meeting each other and also to immigrants meeting locals?
That's interesting. I think both can work, but maybe for different reasons. When two newcomers meet, there's that shared experience we talked about.
Right.
But when a newcomer meets a local, there's this beautiful teacher-student dynamic that can develop. Not in a condescending way, but in this really generous, caring way where someone is helping you understand your new world.
And I think locals can be drawn to that fresh perspective too. Seeing your own city or country through someone else's eyes can be really exciting and romantic.
Oh, yes. Like when I first tried maple syrup on snow, my Canadian friends were so delighted watching me experience that for the first time.
That's such a perfect Canadian example. And it probably made them see something they'd taken for granted in a completely new light.
Definitely. So whether you're two newcomers figuring it out together, or a newcomer and a local sharing perspectives, there's this special energy that comes from newness and discovery.
And I think what we're really talking about here is how being outside your comfort zone can actually expand your capacity for connection. When your normal barriers are down, you can let people in more easily.
That's beautiful. And maybe that's why these relationships often feel so significant. They're not just about finding love. They're about finding belonging, finding home, finding your place in the world through another person.
Well said. That gives a whole new meaning to the phrase, home is where the heart is, doesn't it?
It really does. You know, this conversation is making me think about something else too. What about the challenges? I mean, we've been talking about all these beautiful aspects of finding love as a newcomer, but surely it's not always easy.
Oh, absolutely. That's such an important point. I think one of the biggest challenges is when family expectations clash with your new reality. Like, maybe your family back home has very specific ideas about who you should marry.
Yes. And suddenly, you meet someone amazing who doesn't fit their picture at all. Maybe they're from a different cultural background, or they don't speak your native language, or they have different religious beliefs.
Exactly. And it puts you in this really difficult position where you have to choose between pleasing your family and following your heart. And you're already dealing with being far from home, so disappointing your family feels even more isolating.
And then there's the language barrier, which can be both romantic and frustrating. I remember when I first started dating someone here, we'd have these moments where we couldn't express exactly what we meant.
Oh, I can imagine. That must be both endearing and really challenging. Like you're trying to have these deep, intimate conversations, but sometimes the words just aren't there in your second language.
Exactly. But you know what? It also forced us to be really patient with each other and to find other ways to communicate. Sometimes we'd draw pictures or use gestures or just sit quietly together until we figured out how to say what we meant.
That sounds like it actually created a deeper kind of intimacy. When you can't rely on words, you have to really pay attention to everything else. Body language, tone, emotions.
It really did. But then there are also the cultural differences in how relationships work. Like, in my culture, families get involved much earlier in the relationship. Here, it felt like I was supposed to keep things separate for much longer.
That must be confusing, especially when you're already trying to navigate so many new cultural norms. Do you introduce them to your family over video calls? Do you wait? There's no handbook for this stuff.
No, there really isn't. But I think what I learned is that being honest about these cultural differences early on actually helps. Like explaining to your partner why certain things matter to you or why your family might react a certain way.
That's really smart, because without that context, your partner might misinterpret things. Like they might think you're being secretive when you're actually just trying to respect your family's timeline for introductions.
Exactly. You know, I think we should share some advice for our listeners who might be in this situation. What would you tell someone who just moved somewhere new and is hoping to find love?
First thing I'd say is be patient with yourself. You're already dealing with a huge life change. Don't put pressure on yourself to figure out love immediately, too. But also, don't close yourself off because you think you need to get settled first.
That's such good advice. And I'd add, put yourself in situations where you meet people naturally. Join clubs, take classes, volunteer. Not specifically to find love, but to build a life you enjoy. Love tends to happen when you're living fully.
And don't try to hide who you are or where you're from. Your background, your accent, your different perspective, these aren't things to apologize for. They're part of what makes you interesting and attractive.
Yes, and be prepared to learn about yourself in the process. Dating in a new culture teaches you things about your own values and preferences that you might never have discovered at home. Embrace that journey of self-discovery. It really is complex, isn't it? I mean, we've covered so much ground today, from that initial vulnerability and openness that makes newcomers more receptive to love, to the shared experiences that bond people, to the very real challenges they face with family expectations and cultural differences.
And what really struck me is how love becomes part of the whole process of finding your place in a new country. It's not just about romance. It's about belonging, about feeling understood, about creating that sense of home we talked about.
Exactly. And for our listeners who are English learners, I hope this conversation showed you that love stories can be some of the most natural ways to practice and learn a language. When you're emotionally invested, the vocabulary just sticks better, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a perfect note to wrap up on. This has been such a rich conversation, and I feel like we could probably talk about this topic for hours. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Learn Conversational English. We hope you picked up some useful vocabulary about relationships and emotions, and maybe gained some new perspectives on love and belonging too.
Keep practicing your English, keep being open to new experiences, and remember, whether you're looking for love or just trying to find your place in a new country, you're already being incredibly brave just by being here.
We'll see you next time on Learn Conversational English.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.